Good morning, Jean. You are a welcome guest here in our Boardroom Conversations. Thank you for being here.
With pleasure, Bruce.
Yes. So, Jean, could you explain us a little bit, who are you in a few life moments?
Who am I? Jean Decraene. Now a little bit more than 60 years. Did all my career in IT software companies, primarily in Belgium, where I did everything you can imagine in software companies, primarily in the financial industry for banks and SMEs. Going from startup to scale-ups to international organization, and recently decided to do a 180-degree turn in being active in a federation for philanthropic foundations, so totally different, which we can talk about later if you want.
Super. And tell us a little bit about which companies you have been scaling up nicely.
Yeah, so I started my career by working for a company which was created by Michel Ackermans, which is, I think, known in the Belgium sector, which was called the FICS. And it was a tremendous experience in the sense that it was in the 90s at that time, and you were basically growing in responsibilities because the company was growing at such a pace that you had to pick it up. So starting with 60 people, you ended with 600 people. So it was an incredible journey in that respect. I had the opportunity to redo a similar journey again with Michel Ackermans at Clear to Pay, which is also a little bit more recent and more known, where I ended up becoming the COO of the organization. And once it was successfully sold, the CFO and the CEO left the company, and the buyer said, well, you're going to stay because you need to realize you
need to make it happen.
You need to make it happen. So it was
did you stay?
And I stayed for 2 years for making it happen. You can imagine that what you are forecasting when you sell a company and the reality is sometimes a little bit different. But we did manage to do that in a very good way, which is not always easy when you are in an acquisition track. I mean, I've been at both sides of the fence, being acquired and acquiring, and there's a lot of stuff which is coming in between, which you need to address in order to be successful. So it was quite a good experience. I also developed a turnaround in a time and attendance company in the early 2000s, which is called Captor, basically a competitor of ProTime at the time, which has been taken over again by Kronos, a US-based company. And recently I did, because I had done a lot of experience in startup scale-ups. I enjoyed basically during 7 years to transform a legacy company, which is the Isabel Group, which is a B2B payment provider for the industry, where we had the opportunity to do a complete transformation of the strategy, of the culture, doing a buy and build, which ultimately ended up by even splitting the company in two and doing a very successful sales to Walter Kluwer. So there was a great journey in that respect. And now I'm basically restarting to scale up a federation, which is something I never did. And it's very funny because most of my time I organized, I strategized, I delegated, I motivated team. And now we're just a federation of 2 persons where I have to do everything myself. So usually people start from there and growing the other way while I'm doing the journey in a different sequence.
It's energizing to hear all of those experiences.
Yes,
I will come back to a few of them because it's super interesting. But the first thing on my mind is, how do you define impact, what you're doing now? A federation, 2 people. What is impact for you today in the world and of philanthropy compared to impact in all those start and scale-ups? Is the definition of success differently?
Well, I think the general trend is, it's a little bit a generic statement, but it is say what you're going to do and do what you're saying, basically. And being it a startup where you have to really start convincing people of your strategy. People are also expecting you to do effectively what you're announcing. And especially if you set up things, if you want to motivate people, you create confidence in that respect, not only with your employees, but also with your different stakeholders, such as your customers, etc. And then you create a relationship of trust, which allow you to get the most out of the people. And it's basically that what creates impact. You try to create impact on your environment, on your people which are working for you, but that ultimately they will do the job in that respect. And I've seen that in many transformational activities. It's the same when you do an acquisition. You went there, I think, in many your past. When you do an acquisition of a company, people are looking at you and saying, "Oh, they're going to buy us. They're gonna change everything or whatever." They're somewhat skeptical in that respect. We did an acquisition when I was at Isabel. I bought a company which is called ClearFacts, which is now a leader in platforms for the accountancy sector. And the management team there said, "Well, we decided to go with you, not because you had the best price, because it was not the case, but we believed in your story, and we believed in your vision, and what you were saying at that moment is also what you were realizing." And I'm always very proud of being able to keep people on board when you start from this difficult situation in that respect, because you announce something, you realize something, you create that trust, and people will do more than the extra mile for you because of that situation. So that was really enjoyable. That most of the companies that I bought in my mandates, management teams were staying within the organization, even if they change roles. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you created your company and you went through very difficult period and times, because that's what it is when you do a startup, etc. You have a different spirit and mindset than when you are not the owner of your own company, not basically the owner of your destiny. But even though I still try to make sure that they are the owner of their own destiny, like every employee in the organizations. But they adapt, they change their role. And talking about culture in that respect, what we try to do is to get the most adequate mix of a culture. Your culture is not something you can impose to people. It is built based on the people themselves. And so, especially at Isabel, we adapted basically. We evolved the culture of the teams based on the teams themselves in that respect. And so we had a lot of cross-fertilization in that area, which is exciting. That's what excites me in this type of job, is working with people.
I hear that, and you say it. I hear a lot the words "people" gives you energy, Jean. It's interesting what you say. Having been through as well, having had my own startup, which SD Worx bought a few 4 years ago, I would even say the day after the acquisition, our CEO offered me another job. And I think it was needed for me to do that and to stay. Otherwise, it would have been more of the same in a different context, and probably it wouldn't fit with... you need to give people, I think, what you say, a bigger sense of a mission to go for something. And I think changing roles is one of the important aspects that can do that. You also talk about people are actually making the culture. I think you're right. In the end of the day, the sum of the people is what the culture is.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit more, not just purely about culture, but firstly about the teams you have been working with, you have built. If you think back to some of your best teams that you were part of or that you were leading, what made them high-performing super teams?
Basically that they believe what they do, basically that they know why they are standing up every morning, go to work, and doing the job that they are doing, by aligning clearly the strategy and the vision with their day-to-day work.
And how do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, you work together with them. So the last exercise that we did with with Isabel, for instance, is that if you know a little bit the context of Isabel, it was a company primarily geared for the banking sector, which was working with banking processes. So very strict, very regulated environment with banks as owners. So you can imagine that the processes which are imposed in that company were inspired by that banking industry, of course.
Yeah.
They wanted the board and shareholders wanted to move the company in a different direction. So we did an exercise together, basically, by saying what is the strategy. So involving them from the beginning on that vision, on that strategy, on that journey, by saying where do we want to go, and it was for the teams there, even if they were a little bit skeptical, by saying, hey, we're working for 20 years and bank's never going to work, etc.
We know what to do. Yeah.
We embarked them in that. We embarked them in that journey, and it was a hard thing to do because the first day I joined the company, we were finalizing the acquisition of Codabox, which is also totally different culture. Basically, a group of young people. Deciding to compete against Isabel and kill Isabel. So you can imagine that you buy a kind of a disruptive company and you integrate them. So bring those two together in a joint story, in a joint vision and ambition.
And that's how you've then done it. You've brought the people from both together, and together you created a new cake.
A new cake. Yeah. We created a new cake, a new vision of what we wanted to achieve. And it was I have to admit, it was a cultural clash in the beginning. But we worked together on those matters. And we really created a vision which could be embraced and be supported and pushed through the organization by the management teams themselves. Yeah. And I decided to not change the management teams. I say, we'll define a strategy, we'll design a vision, we'll define the objectives together. It's up to you because you have worked and participated in defining that.
Do you want
to realize that? If you want to stay, you realize if you.
And how many? That's an interesting approach because a lot of people ask me that. Do you need to change people or not that don't believe or not in it? But you actually gave them the keys. You make it together and then you give the keys. Do you want to take the key and drive, or do you prefer to not take the key and drive? How many of them left, Jean?
How many of them left? That's a good question.
Or I assume some may have left.
There is one who left, so very limited in that respect. But when I came in, the message which was given to me, you're going to have to change the whole management team. I say, I'm not going to do that. I mean, what I will do is I'll create that trust. And I'll see what I can do with the team which is there because they have much more experience than I have. They're running the business. They know how it works. So there's probably more to get out of them, which we didn't get out from an enthusiasm point of view, from a drive point of view, etc. So we went through that aspect. And one of the elements that we did is we hired an external party to make an assessment of the complete management team. Yeah. And so they were asking, they're gonna assess me. So it's probably to see what are my good points and bad points, and then decide to get rid of me, or I have to ask to do my job or whatever. Say no, I'll do my assessment myself also with the same people, and trying to find the right mix and balance, and trying to see in that job. Yeah. What are the elements you need to learn or where you can grow, so that you're aware of that, and I will help you growing in that function. And my strategy is I trust you and I give you the keys unless you show me otherwise. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that, Jean. In the book that Koben, our CEO, and myself wrote, we in chapter 1 say to build an impact culture, it is so important to build top teams, and we have also done an assessment with our top 250 leaders, with all the management teams at SD Worx. Not to assess whether you're good or bad, but to give you an insight, what are your strengths, and also, but more interesting, we then spend time, days and days and days with each of the teams showing here are the differences, but the differences is complementary. It's the strength you can have, and you can build that shared vision, but it takes a lot of time. So I was also wondering, how much of your time did you invest in it? How personal did you go? What did you do? Did you take them somewhere?
Well, I think
what was your magic?
I think it's the main job of a CEO. It's doing that. Yeah. It's enabling teams. It's pushing them to do the job, and it's avoiding to do the job yourself.
I love what you said. It's enabling teams.
It's enabling teams, and it's enabling them by saying, what I'm doing with you. Yeah. As a team, because the executive committee is a team and needs to function as a team.
Of course.
And it's not just the boss of that and that division, and after the meeting I do my stuff. No, we have our own objectives and we need to work as a team, which is not always easy if you have different business lines. And why would I help my colleague, which is doing something totally different? So you need to find common sense for that team. Yeah. You need to push them, and you need to give them also a mandate by saying, what I'm doing with you guys, you need to do with your teams.
Oh, of course.
Okay. Yeah. But it's an ongoing process. It takes for some teams it's going fast, and for other teams it's taking much more time, depending on the legacy and where they're coming from.
Yeah, and from experience and from hearing from others, I compared with it's like a campfire. If you don't put a little bit new wood or a little bit new oil or paper, the fire will stop as well. So it's something you probably always need to. In the beginning, it's a lot of work to get the fire running, and then you still need to fuel
but
it.
I think we sometimes underestimate the capacity of people to do stuff. We sometimes too much put them in a corner by saying, this is your job and I'm expecting more, etc. But if you give them the keys, and some people are afraid of that, they say, no. I mean, give me my objectives. No, you're going to define your own objectives. I mean, did you understood the strategy? Yeah. Do you know where we want to go? Well, tell me what you know your job, and I don't want to tell you what you need to do or what your job is, because if you really don't know what you need to do to achieve the strategy, especially if you have co-created the strategy with Elle, I don't think you're at the right place at that moment in time. Yeah. So, but it is sometimes scaring for people when you give them the autonomy by saying, when you come here, I'm not going to pay you for the hours you're spending. I'm paying you for the realization of the objectives, and you have to organize your work yourself. Yeah. Some people can handle that. Yeah. And that's where you see the difference between the ones which can become leaders and the ones which prefer to say, and it's fine also, because if you only have leaders, nobody is going to do the job. But you quickly see in the reaction of people which ones are there to grow and which are there more to go more specialized. Let me do my thing and I will do it 100%. But
interesting. You also mentioned in the beginning trust. As a role as my CEO, it's also to build the trust.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm curious because trust, it's for me, it's like you can see when you enter a company, people, when they enter a company, sometimes they smile from the outside. They enter a company, they feel heavy. It's polluted air. And sometimes they come into the door of the company, fresh air, energy.
Yeah.
How have you been able to build trust as a key enabler for culture in your team? What is your secret recipe for that?
To be like I said earlier on, do what you say. Mm-hmm. That is really critical. Do what you say. Being close to people in that respect. So
how close do you go? Do you go personal? How close do you go, or is that depending on the relationship you have with each of your? I try
to go as close as possible. I mean, in all due respect, by trying to understand what people are doing, etc. Managing by walking around. I was extremely frustrated with the COVID because I could manage by walking around, but there was nobody around the desks.
That must have been a very hard time for you.
That's also a very difficult culture. That was a really hard time because I like contact with people. Yes. I like to discuss with them, and people see when you go to their desk, sometimes they're afraid, and I say, hey, what are you doing now? Yeah. First thing, say, the boss is asking me what I'm doing, so this is for controlling. No, it's because I'm interested in what they're doing.
What you're doing.
And try to do that when you're remote behind a screen, or that's difficult.
That must have been very difficult.
If you cannot animate team meetings in that respect, I think leaders have some most of the leaders have some charismatic, undefinable capacity, which transcends to people and which makes them move and which makes them.
Which is easier, of course, when you do that face to face.
Yeah, it's much easier in that respect. So that's how we primarily do it.
I want to touch upon also another topic, especially in the companies you worked with, startups, scale-ups.
Yeah.
Speed is the essence, I assume. You want to go fast.
Yes.
But what is the right balance between going fast, or sometimes going slow to go fast and make the right decision? And that's on the one side of things. But then secondly, also, how do you make sure when your company, you said 60, 600 people, how do you keep up the right pace and the right speed? How do you do that? That people don't feel, you hear the decision paralysis, we're in a matrix structure, or we have agile coaches, all these buzzwords that in the end of the day don't really work.
No, that's correct.
How do you see that?
It is difficult. When you're in a startup and you are basically doubling your people in your organization on a very short time frame, people are going to say, we're growing, so we have to set up procedures so that we can control that. By the time you have defined your procedure and you set it up and you try to tune it to see it works, I mean, the company is already two levels further. So you need to be able to work sometimes in organization which is in an ongoing development. And how do you manage to work with that uncertainty? How do you manage to constantly evolve and not being stuck in a system where you say, okay, this is my system and it's going to work for the coming 3 or 4 years. Forget about that. It doesn't work. Hence the importance of the delegation, in my opinion, is if the objectives are very clear for everybody, the strategy is clear, the vision is clear, and that people adhere to their objectives, they will do what needs to be done in order to achieve that above any procedural stuff. So you sometimes need procedure. Don't get me wrong, but it helps to adapt to the circumstances. And then you need to create, and that's also a difficult one. You need to create an environment where failure is not the problem. It is. You learn from failures. I think you learn much more from failures than from what you realize. And you need to explain to people by saying, "Hey, no problem if you fail." This is also a concept that people, because they say, if I'm not going to take that risk because if I'm going to fail, my next evaluation is going to be bad. So you need to explain to people that it's part of the process. I heard someone at a certain moment in time be very proud that in the context of his investments that more than 90% of his investments were successful. And I was saying, okay, that's fine, but did you took sufficient risk in that respect? Because that doesn't seem right if you have 90% success. But again, that's a cultural aspect, and these are elements that we've worked very hard on. And spending, I mean, you are also in HR now, spending a lot of time in terms of working on enablement and engagement of people. I was in a situation, a company where both parameters were below the ground. They gave me objectives by saying you need to bring it up in the coming 2 or 3 years. Say, okay, fine, we'll do that. So that was my objective much more, and my executive team objective much more than the people themselves. You can't impose an engagement or enablement objective to the teams. It's the management which needs to do that. And part of that, if you give them the appropriate environment from an enablement point of view, and through the vision and through the actions that you are realizing on that vision, you increase the engagement. It helps in further developing the company. In Isabel, we bought a company every 18 months. It's a different speed than SD, but that means that each time you have to rethink it. You rethink it. So you have the procedures which are defined at the lower level, which guarantees the good functioning of the company, especially towards customers, because you can't spoil with them. But for the rest, you are in an adaptive process. And I think in in a household. I sometimes do the comparison with the household. I don't know if you're married or your kids. I mean, it's a constant evolution. And
married and three children.
Three kids.
So,
married to three kids. It's
a constant evolution.
It's a constant evolution, and they are different. And sometimes, when you have two, suddenly you have three. So you have to adapt yourself, and you don't really control their character, etc.
Character, emotions.
So it's part of the family. Even if at a certain age they want to go their own way, they have to let go their own approach. You can consider that in a company. You have similarities in that area, and you have to live with it.
Yes. Jean, I have two final questions for you. The one is hearing you. For you in your work, what has always success been? Was it in startups? Was it selling the next phase? Or was it actually building ownership, culture, energy in the people system?
Well, it's probably more the latter. And then we always say, leaders have big egos. My fuel was appreciation from the people which I had to work with, and that's what gave me the most energy in that respect.
And then what comes is an outcome, which could be selling, growing, staying.
Exactly.
And I think that's beautiful.
Exactly. Yes. And I think the most, the nicest reward that I got is not the money or whatever. The nice reward that I had is people coming to me and saying thank you for what I did. And I got an experience which still resonates into me is when I finished my job at Isabel, and there was a town hall, and the chairman was thanking me and presented my successor in that respect. I mean, I never had that. I had a standing ovation of the whole team in the room for 5 minutes. I mean, I was whoa. I mean, we couldn't stop them anymore.
That's a moment of real emotion.
I said, job well done. This is something. This is a reward. Nobody's going to take me off, and which will resonate as long as it's possible, much more than anything else. So that was a really nice. I still have tears in my eyes.
You can see I think it's beautiful to see that, because I
love this.
I think it's a nice message for many of the companies. It's if you build a culture of impact, a culture of ownership for the people, anything is possible, and whatever it is. Anything
and
is
it's
possible.
Human, is it ego? Is it love? Is it? But
it's maybe it's a mix of these things.
That's one thing. And the second thing is I had a lot of people which have been working for me and which have then grown stratospherically, created their own company, etc. When I had someone by saying, I'm going to leave the company, I'm going to create my own one. Okay, fine.
Bravo, good.
Yeah. I've done it properly, and I will find someone else to replace you. But I'm very proud of being able to allow people to grow and create a confidence of what their capabilities are and do something else.
Fantastic.
This is
fantastic, Jean.
This is what we're living for.
Inspiring moment for you. Many things that we can take away about ownership, about people, about culture, about sharing, creating that shared sense. Is there anything else on your mind that you say, you know what, this is part of the Boardroom Conversations? CEOs, managers, HR, new leaders are listening to this podcast. Is there anything else that you say, this, don't forget, this is also what I want to give you as a hint, as a tip in life or in work?
I would say the capacity to, how do you say it in English? In French, you say relativiser. So
relativiser, it's a capacity to, make things a bit more relative, not take it too serious.
Take a step back, saying is. I had a couple of times people in total panic by saying, take a step back,
relax.
Are there people alive at stake? No, there are no people alive at stake, and this is something. The fact that you as a leader can demonstrate the fact that you can take some step back, looking at the elements with a relaxed view, not getting excited totally, is also something which can reassure the person in question. And I have to say, this is something that I've learned. I've been working for 2 years in Africa, in Ivory Coast. And I really learned there is a different way of going on with things.
Yes, I can.
They usually say, you white people, you have watches, but we in Africa, we have time. Say, okay, you're probably right. When you see in which kind of environment they have to live and how they live it, and sometimes when you see where we in our Western culture, we're getting totally excited for stupidities.
Exactly.
You don't have to say that to your employee, or you're getting excited for stupidity, but the fact that you have embraced that type of culture and can handle that, if you can pass on some of that relativity to people, it's important. I think in the current economic climate, with everything what happens, you need to be able to take the broader perspective of what you're doing and saying, this is maybe not that important.
Yes, and sometimes a bit slowness and reflection is also good in what you say. Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Jean.
My pleasure,
super
Bruce.
conversation. Loved it a lot, and I think you energized a lot of our listeners. So
perfect.
Thank you.
My pleasure.